Yo, let me tell you something. I think you should shoot at f8. And actually, f8 is actually too fast to shoot sometimes. And the reason I'm talking about this is because, I don't know, maybe 10 videos back or something like that, I was talking about a lens, and I was talking about how I usually shoot at f8, and some guy left a snarky comment saying something like, yeah, I bought a lens that's f2.8, so I'm using f2.8, I'm getting what I paid for. And it's like, bruh, you're showing your lack of experience, your lack of understanding of what you're trying to accomplish with your camera and with your lens. Like, why even have anything else in the frame besides what you're focusing on, the subject, if you're always shooting at f2.8 or f1.8 if you have a 1.8 lens, or f1.4. I mean, occasionally, if you're trying to get that kind of, effect or that kind of vibe for a certain shot, but why, why have everything, like right here, I'm down here by the Hudson River, it's incredibly beautiful. I'm shooting at f8 on an APS-C lens, so I'm really shooting like f11 right now, and because I want you to see everything. And believe it or not, f8 will make everything behind me blurry. Like, not completely blurry, but you could still make out what it is, and it does create a certain depth of field, right? So it is fun to work with f8. Let me just make sure my level is good. Yeah, it is good to work with f8, or somewhere between f4 and f11, or whatever, like whatever f-stop you want to choose to mess with the frame and make it look exactly the way you want it to look, to not just randomly pick an aperture. Like, pick an aperture with intention. Like, what are you trying to show me? What are you trying to express in your story? What do you want me to receive? What do you want me to see? That's the thing about aperture and depth of field and foreground and background. And that's why, personally, I shoot at f8 probably 80% of the time, especially if I'm far away from the camera like this. But even if I'm close to the camera, like if I'm closer to the camera and I'm shooting at f8, I'm still getting a lot of blurred background. Like, the thing is, the closer you are to the lens, the more blurred background you're going to get. I don't care if you're shooting at f11, you're going to create that bokeh. But if you're far away, that's the advantage. The advantage of a fast lens is that you can create whatever frame you want from far away, and obviously at night or in dark situations you can let in more light to the lens. But the real advantage of a fast lens is it gives you a plethora of ways to express yourself visually. And so it's a creative, it's a creative choice. It shouldn't be, oh, I bought a lens that goes f2.8, so I'm always going to shoot f2.8. Like, when people say to me, oh, I just prefer to shoot wide open all the time. Why? I don't understand that. Like, that's definitely not how you're supposed to approach your aperture. It's not how you're supposed to use your lens. You're supposed to choose what you want it to look like. The numbers should be meaningless, especially if you're filmmaking, when you can get in between those numbers. And I don't know, I don't understand that perspective. And I guess, to each his own or whatever. But to me, getting off of f2.8 or 1.8 or whatever, and, stopping down a little bit and creating a situation where you could see what's going on. Like, I'm using this beautiful anamorphic lens. I'm using a Siri 35mm f1.8 anamorphic APS-C lens. And I almost never shoot at f1.8 unless it's very, very specific. Like, I want to capture a moment that calls for all of that bokeh or that blurry background. But it's rare, because really more I'm interested in filling up the frame with everything else and letting you see where I am, especially with an anamorphic lens where it's a little bit wider. I mean, this lens is a 40mm equivalent on an APS-C. It's a full frame body, but I'm shooting in APS-C mode because these are APS-C lenses. And also, I'm shooting with I'm using 4x3 of the sensor, so I have some leeway up and down, but I'm using my frame markers, so I don't generally ever have to move my frame at all. By the time I get to post, I have exactly what I framed when I shot it. Sometimes I might want to move it for aesthetic reasons or whatever, but generally I am framing with the utmost of intention. I'm being very specific. I know exactly what I want. I study the frame. I decide what I want in and what I don't want in, and then I have what I have. And so, yeah, I just think, limiting yourself to f2.8 just because you bought something for f2.8 is you're not getting the most out of that lens. You're not getting the most out of the experience of making film, of telling a story. You are absolutely, limiting yourself and kind of cutting yourself off from the opportunity of, and actually maybe you're being lazy. Maybe you don't want to look at the rest of the frame. You could just point the camera anywhere and it's going to look great. It's going to have a vibe. It's going to look kind of cool. But in fact, you're not really telling a story. You're not really focusing on every opportunity that you have, which is a lost opportunity. Like you have all of this stuff. You have bushes moving around because of the wind. You got leaves. You got water flowing. You got me, my body moving around. Like you have everything. So how do you want everything to look in relation to one another? I have that little island back there, people living out there. Sometimes, I don't think any boats have passed me today so far, but sometimes I have boats passing by. Oftentimes I'll have birds fly by. Like, don't I want you to see all of that? I do. I want you to see it. I want it to be a part of the story. I want there to be some kind of context as to where I am. And then if I'm making a film and I have a script, there's going to be a reason why I'm where I am. Like, what is the reason I'm in this location? Why did I choose this location? Where does this take place? And, how does where it takes place relate to the story and what's going on, the arc of the story, the journey of the characters? Like, everything should be tied together. The location, the way the frame looks, the characters, the subject, the foreground, the background, like everything. The lens you choose, the camera, like it's all one thing ultimately, because at the end, it's just being projected on a screen or somebody's looking at it on their phone or a TV or whatever. But at the end, it's just one thing. It's like putting all the ingredients together to make pancakes, and at the end, it's just pancakes, It's not eggs and flour and buckwheat and all the stuff that you put into it, it's pancakes. This is your pancakes. It's everything. It's me telling you this story. It's me sharing this information with you, and it's me urging you to, investigate what the other f-stops look like on your lens. Just because you have a Helios and you could shoot at f2 and it looks like, wow, that's amazing, doesn't mean that that's not going to bore you to tears really fast if you just stay there all the time. It just doesn't make sense. So that's my daily diary for the day. I just wanted to talk about f-stops and how I shoot at f8 most of the time. And now I shoot f8 on full frame. But right now, like I said, I'm in APS-C mode, so it's really like f11-ish, I think. And I love the way it looks. And now the light's starting to go up and down. That bothers me. But anyway, investigate your lens, stop it down a little bit, use a fast f-stop or a t-stop for specific reasons when you really need it, when it's for a very intentional reason. Like there's a point you're trying to make. And that's all I got to say about all of that.